Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network's YouTube channel. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can find us on Facebook and stay up to date on our Facebook group, or find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for podcasts, hosts, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you might be on this spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's weekly podcast series, The Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Meckes. If this is your first time tuning in, please click subscribe, like, share, or comment. And also, don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to your podcast. Today, replacing anger with love and how to apply it. Joining us is a former CFO of a public company and now a love language linguist and author of Love is God. His journey from childhood experiences of searching and finding love to eventually creating a method that transformed his life from anger to a loving being. In his book, you'll find what helped him move from childhood boot camp of abuse to being a person who loves everyone and can find good in anyone in any circumstance. Let's welcome to the seance today, Paul Zolman. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Doctor.
You are very, very welcome.
Pleasure.
Absolutely. This is, I am intrigued. Let's go back in time. What was this transition? How did this come about?
If you say go back in time, I'd like to just talk briefly about my grandfather. And my grandfather lived in the middle of the United States in Indiana in the late 1800s. He had 9 children with his wife, and then after that 9th child was born, apparently it was suddenly or very quickly after that the wife passed away. He was so distraught about that he decided he was going to sell his house, sell the farm, sell all the equipment, everything. When the people came to pick up the equipment or came to the auction, he said, "Would you also like this child? Would you like this child? Would you like this child?" And he systematically gave every child away except for one. He took Benjamin with him to Montana, found a school teacher that had never been married her, had 10 more children, of which my father's number 6. My father was born in 1922, and when he was 10 years old, his father, my grandfather, passed away. So here you have the abandonment of 19 children in the depths of the Depression in 1932. So you've got abandonment issues, you've got financial issues, you've got all these things compounding on these families. And it was just very difficult. My father only was able to finish through 8th grade. After that, he became a truck driver. And he was gone when I was growing up. He was gone during the week, would come home on Friday, and I respected him for having a date. Every single Friday was date night with my mother. Yeah. Every Friday. He never missed. I mean, he was really super good about taking care of his women in that way. Well, I was kind of the thorn between two roses. I have an older sister and a younger sister, and I'm the last boy. I'm number 10 of 11 children, so that Zolman family is prolific throughout the years there. I have 8 children myself, so I've toned it down just a little bit.
Yeah. Right on.
But so that meeting or that date that my parents had every Friday night, the venue was part of the problem, and then alcohol on top of it. So the venue was the Maverick Bar, and it was over alcohol that my mother would say, "How was your week?" And my father would say, "Well, how was your week?" And back and forth. And so by the time they got down to me, my father was very angry about what had happened through the week, and it all seemed to pile on me. It just seemed that way. I'm sure it wasn't that way, but it seemed that way. And so I dreaded the weekends, absolutely dreaded the weekends, and still have a little fear of weekends right now, that it's not a time to have fun, that I've got to watch out for things that might come my way. So we either would get the belt or we get spankings on Saturday. And that was just how we started the weekend. It was just not a very fun time. It was abusive. I remember one time that I was spanked so hard that I was black and blue for about 3 weeks or more. I know it was at least 3 weeks. And so we didn't know, Ghostbusters hadn't come out, and you didn't know who to call. So we didn't know. We just didn't know that. We just thought that was normal family, and that you don't share those kind of things. That's just a family matter. And it was just kind of a difficult circumstance. So from that, I felt like I had residual anger from that upbringing. I blamed my father up until I was about age 35 for all things that went wrong with the relationships with me, all things that ill failures along the way that I had. I was blaming my father for it. And the funny thing, doctors, about blame is that you can blame somebody all day long, and then you don't have to change. It's like a false atonement, so to speak, that no one is taking that away from you. Even if you blame them, it doesn't take the problem away. So until you take responsibility for your own problems, then there's not going to be any change. You don't have to change. It's somebody else's problem. It's somebody else's fault. And as long as you've got that attitude, you're never going to change. You're just going to stay kind of in that static in that same spot. Such it was until I was 35 years old. Then I realized, I'm responsible. At age 35, my father he'd been dead for 7 years. Yeah. Poor guy, he didn't even have a chance to defend himself when I was blaming him for one thing or another thing. And so at that time, I thought, I've got to change this. I've got to figure out what I really want to do with my life and stop looking toward the past about what happened and start making a new life. And so I started working on that. And fast forward, about 15 years ago, I was dating. I thought I had pretty well gotten over a lot of the anger. But what I found out that I was doing was I was taking one annoyance and stacking another one on top of it, and stacking another one on top of that, another one on top of that, until I flashed, until I just had a blow up, an anger. And so about 15 years ago, when I was dating, my first marriage ended in divorce, and it's probably because of those issues that I was blaming someone else for things that I needed to change myself. And I take full responsibility that way, that it could have fallen apart for those reasons. There were other reasons, obviously, but it could have fallen apart for those reasons. And so I'm dating this person. It's time to take her. I'm number 10 of 11 children, so I always have to have big brother approval. So I was taking this lady up to my big brother's house, and first thing that happened was my sister-in-law pulls her aside and said, the only emotion that the Zolman family learned growing up was anger. At first I said, then it made me mad. Yeah, she nailed it. And so I realized at that point that I've got an opportunity here, that I can either change the perception of the Zolman family, or I can leave it the same, or I can just continue to deny it. And I thought, I've got to change that. I don't want that perception to be had for my own name and for my children's name. And so I decided to start reading the color code and then the 5 love languages book by Dr. Gary Chapman. And I really liked the love languages, mainly because Dr. Chapman introduces that it follows the pattern of the life of Jesus Christ, that he touched people. He touched the eyes of people, the blind people, and they were able to see. He touched their ears so they could hear. And he just had the gifts of the Spirit. He spent time with people. He served them, and we've got his words. So all 5 love languages were absolutely in the life of Jesus Christ, and that really resonated with me. But I just still didn't understand it. So I came from that background of abuse, and I just could not understand what it was that what love was. But in the book, Dr. Chapman says, well, if I guess what your love language is, and I cater to that, then we're going to be buddies.
Yeah.
That did not sound like love to me. Who am I to say what love is from where I came from? But that didn't sound like it either.
Yeah.
So that didn't work for me. I'm a bad guesser too, really bad guesser. So that wasn't going to work for me. The next thing that Dr. Chapman has is that, well, if you take this survey, then you'll find what love language you are. So, okay, but what do I do with that information? Advertise? Hello, doctor.
Yeah.
I'm gifts. What do you have for me today? I mean, that's not love either. That didn't work for me either. So telling someone, and I can see this in Dr. Chapman, he was trying to help the communication there, but I can see someone saying, well, I told you what my love language is. Why aren't you catering that? Why aren't you doing it? And just have that little whiny voice, and you get this little pity party going. And I thought, oh, that's not love either. And I thought, help me with this direction. So in the book, it talks about the giving it away and then receiving it back, but mostly it's about you and about how you like to receive love. And I thought, well, what about the test? Is that what I like to give away, or is that what I like to receive? And for me, they were actually different. Most people may think that if they have a primary love language and if they give it away, then it'll come back to them. Well, if they give it to the wrong person, that's not giving that type of love language. It's not coming back. And so they just keep giving, hoping that someday it's going to come back, and it's just not happening. So figured out a better way. And even in these hard times growing up, we had a few happy times. I remember the happy times. They were still very competitive, still very almost abusive in the competition at playing games. And it was just, I mean, insults would fly, and the locker room talk that happens of just put the put downs of the smack talk always going on. And so I still liked the games because I felt like it brought our family together. So I contacted Dr. Chapman and said, I've got an idea. I wondered if you'd license those icons for the love languages to me. They wrote back and said, no, they're not doing that. I was very grateful that they said that, because what it allowed me to do is create my own. I went to a copyright attorney here in my town, found out that theory, like the theory of the love languages, is not copyrightable.
Wow. Application
is. So they did not have this as a game. So what I did is I made my own icons and made it into a game. And it's actually just a die. So you can see on the die, you've got the words, the time, the service, there's touch, there's gifts. Now there's 5 love languages, 6 sides on the die. The 6th side I had to work with, and I made it up to be surprise me. So just 2 instructions. You roll the die every day. That's the love language you practice giving away all day that day. Just one direction. That's really the only thing you have control over, what you send out. Yeah. You can't really bid love to come your way. You can't. You can ask, but even if you ask, it almost would be duty bound for that person to do it because you ask. That's not love. And if you are giving it away, expecting it to come back your way, that's in a reciprocity type of situation. That also is not love. That's a transaction.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get away from different things that people are doing that really are not love, and try to help people deepen their love. Giving it away without any expectation of it coming back is true love. But you're trusting the process. You know that the law of harvest is a true principle, that what you sow, somebody else might reap, or you might reap, or there may be other people that reap from that. But sending it out with trusting that it's coming back, it does come back. Let me tell you what else happens when you send this out. Instead of having to stop, pause the relationship and say, could you take this survey so I can find out how to love you? You don't have to do that anymore. Watch for them to light up.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do. When they light up, that's what they like. That's their primary love language, or one that's close to it. Maybe they've got two. But just make a mental note and wash, rinse, repeat. Do it over and over again. Just watch and try to remember what people like. That is a personal interest in them. They'll remember. If you remember, they're going to send love your way. The best thing about this is if after doing this for 30 days, you know all 5 love languages backwards and forward to give it away. When it comes your way, you can see it, all 5 love languages too. Even though it might not be your primary love language, and it's over here, you say, oh, I can see they're loving on me. I can respond appropriately.
Yeah.
And it just really improves your peripheral vision for seeing love when it comes your way.
Huh. That is intriguing. And I like the stuff. For those who want to look at your books and your work in the dice and stuff like that, they can find you. Let me bring up your website here. They can find your website at www.rolloflove.com. And I'd like to share. Let's see. That it? There we go. So let me make sure I've got you on. So if you can explain just a little bit, and for those who are going to be listening to the show, definitely check out the YouTube channel, the video. That way you can actually see what we're describing. But it's really cool too, because you've got. Let me scroll down here a little bit. And 101 ways to express love, implement love languages daily guide. Roll of love. Now, the second one, the Roll of Love book, is this kind of like the step-by-step on teaching people how to use the die?
Right. So the Roll of Love book is a book that was just published this year that is a lot of stories of people that have used the die, and you'll get several suggestions, but it also kind of goes into the role of observation, as we just talked about, that watching for them to light up. What your whole idea is, doctor, and your whole mindset is that you're trying to find that time where you can make someone's day.
Yeah.
You want them to light up, and then when you make their day, they're going to make someone else's day. They're going to pass it on. It's kind of like that slug in the shoulder at the lunch line when you're a kid, and they hit you in the shoulder and they pass it on. And maybe they don't do that. Maybe they police that a lot more these days. But I remember those days, and if you didn't pass it on, you kind of got it double. And then even if you tried to stop it, you got it double. And it was just kind of a bad thing. But this is a good thing. We want to pass love on. The mindset is what's good about that person? What can I love about that person? And you'll be so busy watching for those opportunities, so busy watching for those two things in your daily life that you absolutely have no time to say what's wrong with that person and be annoyed about that person. You can't, even that guy that pulls in front of you while you're driving, you can't go there anymore. I'm sorry. Some people enjoy that.
Yeah.
You can't go there.
And I think the biggest thing too is we occasionally run across not only a stranger, but maybe an acquaintance or a friend or an associate or a colleague, and they're hasty. They're always got this hastiness about them, this energy about them, where it's like you don't want to be around them, or it seems like they don't want to be around you or anybody else. I came up with a trick. I think I had this on one of my other shows and stuff, or on a recording. I asked somebody, I was like, well, if anybody gets really rough with you or, get really bitter, I go, well, ask them if they want a hug. I was like, man, you need a hug. and you'll see their energy change like immediately, or they'll just walk out of the room. Or you just say, I love you too. And you'll see their energy completely change. You'll give you this weird look. Have you ever had any encounters like that? Just kind of just approaching somebody that's really hasty and just saying, I love you too, or just, you need a hug.
Yeah, I have, and it's really unfortunate. There are people like that just choose not to think that they have any ability to love, or I've heard the comment several times, I don't have anybody to love. And it's really interesting, Doctor, that I created this while I was single. And according to Dr. Chapman and doing this only love language only to your significant other, which I think is a part-time job, I decided since I don't have any significant other, I just have to love everyone. And it really worked out a whole lot better because now I got into that habit of practicing all the love languages. After doing it for the 30 days, I became what I like to call a love language linguist. I knew them backwards and forwards. It's a sexy title. I know you want another title, Doctor. You have a couple. I know you not want one more title. It's LLL, Love Language Linguist.
There you go. L3.
That's all right. L is the third power. That's right.
L cubed.
So I find people like that, but and you can just say a prayer for them. You can just hope that they'll find a way to feel love. And even at the time when they say that, I wish I would have said something different, because obviously I did not hit a string to light them up. And it was just something that they just wanted to stay in that space where they're already at, that they wanted to stay right where they're at. And I have kind of an illustration about that, about our choices. The other day I was out walking and I found a little walking stick. And I just, on one side of the stick, it's really nice and smooth. You put your hand on it, it's just really cool. The other side of the stick, though, it has some pricks out on it, and it's kind of knotty. So I call this my naughty and nice stick. And I'm sure Santa Claus has a stick just like that, Doctor. And so on this naughty and nice stick, on the naughty end of it is what I found is anger, and on the nice side of the stick is love. Anger has its own culture. It has its own humor. It has its own words. It has its own nuances. It's right in its own culture. And people that say angry words or even sarcasm, when you think of sarcasm, is it on the naughty side of the stick or is it on the nice side of the stick? And I would say it's on the naughty side of the stick, because the opposite would be being authentic, being genuine. And when you can think in opposites that way, you'll find out soon, is that behavior that I'm doing on the naughty side of the stick or is it on the nice side of the stick? You'll see that spectrum, and then you've got three choices. You can stay the same, stay right where you're at, blame everybody else, and you'll not move anywhere because you don't think it's you. You don't have to change. Or you can move to the left or move to the right. So that's kind of where I was when I chose to learn the love languages, learn the nice words, learn the nice humor, the soft humor that will make people laugh but not take it personally. And it's just that type of thing is if you can find the spectrum, you've got opportunity for setting goals, you've got opportunity for improvement. But until that time, it's kind of willy-nilly, come what may, and you're just kind of floating with the waves.
Yeah. Now, speaking of spectrums, what are some of the epiphanies that you've had in your life that help you understand this, your place on this spectrum? But before, explain the spectrum. Yeah,
when I was trying to understand my father, and I was trying to do all the right things, like even keep the fifth of the 10 commandments, to honor my father and my mother. And I went to Japan for a couple of years, and while in Japan, I wrote him a letter once a week. And I thought, after the 2 years that I was there was up, I thought, you know what, this is a really good habit. Do I want to throw this habit away, or do I want to keep this habit? So I decided that this is kind of honoring my parents. Even though as simple as it was really honoring my parents, that I'd write them once a week.
Yeah.
for that period of time. So I chose to keep the habit, and I wrote them once a week until my father passed away on his 65th birthday, and then my mother lived to be 88. And so for 32 years after the time I was had started this habit in Japan, for 32 years I wrote letters. So I have over 1,500 letters. Wow. Of doing that. And part of the epiphany that I had was that people can change. It doesn't matter, and really my generational the generational habits that were passed down of the spectrum was only because it was taught. That's what they knew. That's what they taught, and that it wasn't really genetic in any way, shape, or form, but it's just taught. It was that I learned how to be an abuser, so to speak, by the hands of my parents. And I did not want that life. I didn't want my children to have that type of life either. So I was looking for something better, always looking for something better. But I needed to find out where I was on the spectrum to be able to make that complete change. I don't have any problems anymore being annoyed with people and stacking the annoyance and stacking it and flashing anymore. Not at all. In fact, it went away after a 30-day period, just enough time to form a habit. That went away, and I just felt like it's almost like a burden's lifted, and those are the epiphanies too. That this is fabulous. In this same time period, though, that I was getting that burden lifted, I was a route driver. I get up before dawn and go to bed, or come back after sunset. And so I was seeing all the sunrises and I was seeing all the sunsets. And what I found out, this is a huge epiphany, what I found out is that the very best sunrises and the very best sunsets all have clouds. So it is with our life. Everybody that have clouds and that work through that, they'll find the silver lining, and at the very end, it'll be a beautiful sunrise or a beautiful sunset of our life. So it's how we work through those clouds and how we overcome that. That was a huge epiphany for me, huge transition. And you see them all your life. I think I was probably maybe 40 years old when I realized that sunrise, what the difference was between the very best sunrise and very best sunsets was. It's the cloud.
And this always comes up too. I've heard so many discussions about this, but kind of like off this, not very often. But the word love, it seems like it's either misused or mispronounced, or the word love is in just about every lyric of so many songs out there. What's your opinion in the use of that and the history of it?
Doctor, I think that's a great question. I appreciate that question. It's one that I think that we're straying far from the true definition of love. We talked a little bit about the reciprocity and as a transaction. We talked a little bit about just giving it just with expectation. Anything like that is not even close to what the true love is. It's just giving it without expectation. It's a genuine kindness, a genuine caring for every other human being there is. And when you send that out, people feel that genuineness, they feel that authenticity, and that's where true love is. Do that enough and do it often enough in your marriage, then that's the crowning moment of that is the intimacy. But it's not all about intimacy. And you would have, the movies would think that's what it is all about. But that's the crowning moment of all these nice things that you've done up until that point. And it's just it's a base for you with, and it's just a good way to live. It's something, I think that we have these annoyances, and everybody gets annoyed so quickly, is offended so quickly, that how can that be love? And how can they even talk about love when they're so offended so quickly, or they're so hasty, so impatient that how can they even feel it? when they think it has to be fast. This isn't a fast thing. This is something that you develop over time, and it's just something that sending out the goodness, and it's planting a seed. You can't be yelling at the dirt and the seed to come on, grow up. You can't be doing that. It's not going to happen, and it's just takes the time of nurturing it, and it's something that definitely is nurtured over a period of time.
Yeah, yeah, and I just think that in moments, I've seen this in moments of tragedy, especially mass tragedy, where you get to see the love from people actually start to spring up and grow.
Absolutely.
Well,
we don't need more mass tragedies to be able to feel love.
And that's sad. It's sad that when that happens, you get to see this huge change. I mean, look at 9/11. It's everybody came together to help everybody, and it's true careness, true love, true giving, forgiving,
absolutely, gifting, all that.
Yeah, and gifting without the thought or
you're not getting an
expectation of reciprocity.
Yeah, no, there's no return on that, except the good feeling that you have that you're helping as you can.
Yeah, yeah.
I think and you're entitled to that if there is such an entitlement. Just like you get paid when someone lights up, when you've made their day, you get paid right then. You get a happiness that can't be reproduced any other way. A happiness inside that, oh, cool, I made someone's day. I'm going to go do it again. That was fun. And not only get paid then, but when that love comes back to you, if you're waiting for it, I mean, and you shouldn't be waiting for it, but when it does, then you get paid again for that, for what you sent out.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen some of these stories of people. It's happened a couple years ago, but I'm sure you've probably seen it. A bunch of videos online of people paying forward. The
right.
person in front of the line pays the person behind, and it just keeps on going and growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. But so what would you like to share about your website and what people can look forward to, and for those who are looking for the language and learning the language, what would you like to share for them as far as going to your website and some of your services and products?
I think that you've shared a lot of it. You can buy. There's a journal, and the journal is interesting. I've tried to trying to introduce it to children at schools right now. That they take the die. The whole class would take the die at the beginning of the day, roll the die, and then at the end of the day, each of the child would have a journal page that they'd write what opportunities, what they rolled that day, what the whole class rolled that morning, what opportunities did they see to love in that way that day during the class time, the school day, and then what did they do about those opportunities? I would think that this would tamp down any misbehaving at all. And it's kind of a subtle way to teach children responsibility for their own actions. And it's just back to my own epiphany at age 35, realizing that I got to stop blaming my dad for my actions, for whatever things were coming to me in my life, that I was sending it out for some reason, and start taking responsibility within the classroom for their own actions. And then we're going to tamp down a lot of that violence that's happening. But we've got to teach the kids, and I'm talking more about K through 6 at this point in time, because those are the classes that they're all together, and then they're together in the morning and they're together late in the afternoon, and they're not to the point of the school year that they're changing classes a lot. So that's one thing that I'd suggest, if there's any teachers in your audience that might be interested in that, I can help them with that, get that installed in their system. The other thing is that there might be a lot of people that are familiar with yoga out there. Mm-hmm. At the end of a class, normally the instructor put their hands together like this, like they're praying, and then say namaste. And namaste has a lot of different interpretations, But the best interpretation that I like, that is just very similar to what we're doing here, is the God in me sees the God in you. Or in other words, the divine in me sees the divine in you. We're watching for those things that are good about one another. And I like to compare that to a magnifying glass, that whatever you magnify is going to grow bigger. If you want the faults of another person or the weaknesses of another person to grow bigger, go ahead and focus on that. But guess what? That's a boomerang. It's coming right back to you. They're going to focus on your weaknesses. And is that really what you want? Stop it. Just quit sending it out. Focus on the good. Focus on what's right about them. It's just as valid. Everybody's got mistakes. Just remember that and allow some latitude. But focus on what's good. Watch that grow. Watch that expand. Some people are really surprised when I identify something that is a trait that they're doing at the moment, and they never heard it described that way. And then it makes them feel good, makes them feel very happy that they've identified a trait, or that I've identified a trait in them that maybe they didn't even look at it that way. So it's just watching for those good things and just focusing on that, enlarging that, magnify it, make it bigger.
Yeah. Do you have any like breakthrough moments? Anybody who has come back and told you, wow, any stories of breakthroughs or testimonials?
Yeah, of course. There always are out there. I was testing this with a family of 5 children, and just kind of more of a funny breakthrough moment was the youngest of the 5 children was just 4 years old. You'll notice that on the diet there are only pictures. There's no words at all. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's just something. That's how kids learn to read anyway. They just learn by pictures. So you just tell them what each side of the die is all about. So this 4-year-old one day rolled physical touch. All of a sudden he jumps up and down, pumps his fist and said, "Yes, physical touch," and immediately went to beat up on his brothers.
Oh man!
The mother's trying to suppress all the laughter just like that, because she don't want to encourage that. She don't want to kind of suppress that. She said, "No, son, that's not really appropriate physical touch. That's not loving. That's not what we're talking about." But it actually became a teaching moment for that family. Just what is appropriate physical touch, and just the high fives, the fist bumps, the pats on the back, the hugs, just those things that you would give in a family or just anywhere. It just comes home, and it just kind of resonates with them. And then they can learn, even young children, they can learn what the right thing to do is.
Yeah, got to teach them young, man. It's
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. So getting close to the end of our show, what would you like to leave as a takeaway for our audience, our listeners and viewers?
I think the best thing that we can do right now is kind of have a introspection of where each one of us are. Just if we can find out where we are on that spectrum between naughty and nice, between anger and love, find out where we are, where we operate most, what do our words say where we are. If we can find out where we are, then decide where you want to go with that, and then make the changes that you need to make to do that. This is one tool there's several tools out there, but this is just one tool I found super effective for me. Like I said, I had those anger issues, I had the flash issues, I had all those things up until I started rolling the die, and it only took 30 days, just enough to develop a habit. Only took 30 days for me to even stop doing that habit, and this became a replacement habit, just watching for the good in others. If we could develop that one person at a time, we're going to have a lot happier communities. We're just really going to have a lot more peace in our own life and in the lives of those that are around us, watching for the good and just going about doing good. That's what Jesus did. That's what we should be doing too. And the other thing I want to leave with the audience is that if they like listening to audibles, and there is an audible of the book that they can go on Amazon, But if they type in the name of the book, Roll of Love, they type that in, they're going to get love this, love that, love a million things. And it's going to be like a needle in the haystack trying to find.
Yeah.
So if they'll type in my name, it'll pop right up. So they'll type in Paul Zolman, it'll pop right up, and they'll be able to listen to the audible version of the book as well.
Okay. And as far as like, is that just a book on Amazon, or can they also find the die on Amazon?
The die, unfortunately, Amazon printing and Amazon stores are in different places. Mm-hmm. They don't really connect, and it's really hard that way. So the book and the journal are on Amazon, as well as the Audible, and then, but the die has to be from my website.
Yeah, and also if they wanted to reach out to you, you were also on. Let me move back here. They can find you on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Roll of Love Dice.
Correct. Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Paul, it's been an honor to have you on. And keep us posted if you have another book coming out or any other new products.
Absolutely.
Now, do you travel and do lectures and events and stuff like that?
That will probably be, I'll start probably mid to the last part of next year with that. Currently, I'm working on putting an app together that people can actually have this on their phone, and so they can push a button to roll the die, and then when the die comes up, it'll give them maybe a quote from a famous person, and then 5 or 6 suggestions of what they could do in that genre for that day to watch for opportunities in this way. It also give them opportunities like for gift day that they could buy flowers, or they could send flowers, or send chocolates, or just those kind of suggestions will be on the app. So that's my current project.
Cool.
Yeah,
definitely keep us posted, and I'll get you back on the show. And
that'd be great.
Awesome.
Thank you. Cool. Thank you so much, Doctor. It's been a pleasure.
You're very, very, very welcome. Namaste, my friend.
Namaste.
Thank you, everybody, for watching Conscious Radio Network's The Seance, and thank you, Paul Zolman, again for being on the show. Until next time, we will see you next week.